important panel, and it's an important topic that how do we feed ourselves? And right now, how we're feeding humanity is destroying the earth with industrial agriculture and processed food. We're destroying our, and so this from soil to seed to is looking at the big picture, um, and the microscopic picture. It's like at every scale, understanding just what it is that we're nourishing ourselves with or not. And we have three extraordinary panel, well, actually four. Josh and Kelly, I sometimes count you as a unit. You're such an extraordinary unit. Um, but we're going to start with Tayana, who's just going to give us a look at soil. Some very interesting things you may not have been aware of. So take it away, Tayana.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kitty. And thank you, Sandra and Michael and the whole Earthdance team. What an honor to be involved in this beautiful, rich programming. So before we get started, I invite everybody to put the soles of your feet on the earth. Even if you're on some wood floor or carpet, just know that we have roots and tendrils that can shoot down into the core of the earth. And just take a breath. And tune into the miracle that is this plant-human breath exchange. That when we exhale, the plants inhale, and when the plants exhale, we inhale. Just remembering our interconnection to the plant queendom, as I like to call it, the plant queendom. So I'm just gonna pull up one slide to begin. So I'm ready for that first slide, please. All right, so the words human and humus actually come from the same Latin root. How about that? Maybe that's a little reminder of our earliest ancestors, really, the soil, the rocks. And I think that we have a lot to learn from these ancestors of ours whose shoulders we literally stand on, that are our common ground. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to talk about what happens with plants, the air, our breath, and the soil. So a beautiful exchange happens when plants bring in the carbon dioxide. They use sunlight and water to separate oxygen out for us to breathe, and then carry the carbon dioxide down, the carbon down into their root systems as carbon sugars. And what happens at the tips of the roots is this exchange where plants and trees trade the carbon sugars for minerals and water that they need. So what can we as human beings learn from these exchanges that our earliest ancestors are doing all the time? They're networking in order to grow more regenerative, richer communities and ultimately soil and life. So now let's move on to the third slide, please, where we see underground. We have the root system, and then we have the rhizobacteria and the mycorrhiza, which is just the fungi. What's fascinating is that the roots can only reach so far by themselves. They actually need these helpers to reach further into the earth to get the minerals and the water that they so need to continue to grow and produce fruit and flowers. So what I like to, it's not so much that we're learning from nature, because we are nature. So I want to just continue to reframe this as we're remembering all of who we are, the mother nature that that begets life, that is us. So we can go on to the next slide to look at this a little more deeply. We see here the root tip of the plant, and um, it can only, it can only reach so far, but then look at all of the mycorrhizal fungi that's extending this plant's particular network. And what's there for us to learn from this theme that's been arising all day in the beautiful Earthdance programming, which is community, connectedness, synergy, collaboration. Hey, the plants all around us have been doing this for literally billions of years, and cooperating with other species and living systems that aren't necessarily their own, but there's this great harmony that happens. And I think we can join them in creating that harmony. So to finish off, we'll go to the last slide here, which is something I find so fascinating, and I hope you do too. It's a carbon healthy soil. Okay, so when this exchange happens in a healthy way, there's lots of carbon in the soil, and it forms what's called an aggregate. You can see this lump. This is healthy soil. If it just kind of dissipates in your hands, that's kind of, there's not a lot of life in there. But this example, a lot of life. And so that life happens when the plants, the fungi, and the microbes are working all together. And what I just love about this is that these relationships create space. They create a living sponge underground. And so, what does that tell us about the value of community, healthy relationships, networking? There's so much spaciousness within that. And in the case of soil, that beautiful sponge like spaciousness allows for resilience, because it's in those spaces that water is kept. And in times of drought, that water is there ready to go. So it's sort of an underground reservoir for life. And let's just connect back into the earth, soles of the feet on the earth, and finding the breath exchange with the plants around you. Maybe it's a house plant that you're looking at, or maybe like me, you're in your garden. But just recognizing the miracle and the interconnectedness. All right, well, that is my offering. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll hand it back to Kitty and the rest of the beautiful panelists.
You know, I'm, can you hear me now? So I just want to thank Tayana for that beautiful look at healthy living soil and all the complexities that's going on down there, and the collaboration that's so important to life. And I want to move on now to our friends from Dragonfly Earth Medicine. That's Josh Sarvis and Kelly Dunn. Um, these two are two of the most remarkable farmers who grow food, medicine, cannabis, and they're totally dedicated to the regeneration of the earth and the humans in all the ways that they build their soil and grow their plants. And they're also just amazing educators and philosophers about regenerative agriculture. I just love having conversations with these two. They also have products that help build the soil, I understand. And they've also created a, it's a, oh, how to explain it? It's a certification, a pure certification for cannabis farming. But anyway, I just want to hear from them. Tell us your take on this, from soil to seed to soul, because I know that you're right there at every level. So please.
Thank you so much for having us here, and blessings to the earth for the shell and for the space for us to exist on. We really appreciate this time to be with everyone, and thank you for having us. We've often said that we're humus beings, that we're only as healthy as the earth that we live on, and that our ultimate goal is to enhance the soil, because that's enhancing the food, which is enhancing our soul. Without proper microbiology, without a proper microbiome in our body or a proper microbiome in the earth, we can only achieve a certain amount of success. And really, ultimately on earth, we have everything that we need to survive. So when we talk about seed to soil, or from soil to seed to soul, we look to how to build the soil, how to go and look at nature and how to enhance that on our land, how to build nutrient dense soils which the food comes out of, and then how the seed is a representation, how it locks in time the health of that soil, and how the interaction of the plant while we're growing it, that union and that sacred time where we're evolving together throughout the summer, that gets locked into the seed. And in that seed is our ultimate future. So we often talk about what a healthy garden is, but often people don't recognize the garden is for the seed. So as we're growing for the fruit, we also must look to let some of our healthiest plants go to seed, so that we can regenerate the earth, and so that we can move beyond just being organic and being regenerative or nootropic, in a way that we can regenerate life on earth. So it's our mission at Dragonfly Earth Medicine, and the collective which we represent, the Pure Collective and the farms, that we are all dedicated to showing the world how you can be more self-reliant and not so needy from the system. Maybe we live a little bit more closer to the earth, and we grow as much of our food and medicine, and we recognize that the food is our medicine and the medicine is also our food. So how to incorporate that into our life, how to have superfoods create a super life for us. Is there anything you'd like to add to
Yeah,
that?
thanks, Josh. What I wanted to say is something that's just so totally fascinating to me, is that we are 99.9% all exactly the same if you compare our DNA as humans on the earth. But if you compare our microbiome as humans on the earth, we're 99.9% different. So microbiology gives us this incredible individual. It gives us our thinking ability. I don't believe that we have the ability to be an intellect, or to even convene with each other, or to understand nature without microbiology. I believe that microbiology is what gives us our higher intelligence. And we find the most high intelligence in the soil. The soil contains microbiology that, if we are ill, like say we have Crohn's disease, schizophrenia, anything that's wrong, cancer, when we test the microbiome of those human beings, they're devoid of a lot of microbiology that is found in the soil. So if we look towards Mother Nature, she's one that is truly giving us life. So the more that we ally with healthy living, full microbiotic rich soils, and we're in it and we're breathing it, then we have the ability as humus beings to be able to think more clearly, to be able to connect in a way that Mother Nature has given us this ability. She has sparked life from the very beginning. Every single cell in our body is run and is fueled by mitochondria. And mitochondria is a living organism that is also found in every other living thing. And they say that that also came from the soil at one time.
And if
that we grew from.
I didn't hear you, Kitty.
Now, do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, it was saying that the mitochondria in our cells arose from the original ancestor organisms, And it's just a layer of life on life on life all through evolution, that they really are our ancestors. And
Absolutely.
to honor and respect our ancestors, to remember those organisms in the soil are truly our ancestors. And we really create, connect. It's the interrelatedness coming back to. So thank you so much. You guys are such incredible, both practitioners and philosophers. You bring so much, so many.
Thank you so much.
Kitty.
And it's good to recognize that we are the ancestors of our future generations. So if we can make sure that the prints that we leave on the earth are going to last for 7 generations from us to be a positive impact, then we have really made a big difference on the earth.
And if we look at what Mother Nature is creating, all she ever is creating, everything that she is here for to do is to create soil. So if we can just follow in her footsteps a little bit and just use her as a mentor, then we're all on the right path to a much higher spirituality and connectedness.
And if we're lucky,
thank you.
We will end up in that soil.
The soul of this panel right here. And our next amazing, amazing practitioner, a farmer, 30-year journey of permaculture, Jenny Pale. Jenny is on Maui. And you know, Maui is an island. And with the COVID-19, with the interruption of food supplies, not just on Maui, but everywhere, it's really a big issue right now, food sovereignty. How do we grow our food and medicine? And she's brought some really brilliant thinking to this with her project, Ohana Gardens. Very practical and just amazing, bringing victory gardens back in to vogue, into the collective consciousness. So Jenny, I just hand it over to you to tell us about your amazing project.
Thanks, Kitty. It's really great to be here. And I just want to start with recognizing that seeds are time-traveling miracles. Right? So seeds are having their seed dreams while we're going about our business. And then when we put them in the ground, or they put themselves in the ground with that right combination of soil and oxygen and water, they come to life. And all of us, all of the people that, and all the beings that we share this planet with are nourished by that. So the time-traveling miracles that are part of our everyday existence. The project that I'm working on is Ohana Gardens. It's a local homegrown iteration of Victory Gardens without the colonial overlay. And we're looking in in an island community that without the tourists, we're about 150,000 people. And we can grow food year round here. And before the white colonists came, the Hawaiians fed themselves abundantly from master farmers and master fishermen. So what does it take to get back to a significant portion of our food coming from our own backyards and from our neighborhoods? My big dream for this project is to have salaried permaculturalists in every neighborhood who are able to help people grow their gardens, grow perennial crops, have sophisticated compost systems and fertility, and be able to take us from the soil to the seed, all the way through to seed collection, and then into the soul part of it, which is, who are you in your community when you actually represent a repository of knowledge that's valuable in your community? So if you're the plant grower, or the tree expert, or you're the vegetable person, or you're the water expert, you're needed in your community. And when people call on you to step into that role of what knowledge you have, how does that feel in your soul to be needed and relied on in your community, rather than just being a functionary in a system that really doesn't need you at all? So as we return to local in a different context now, any serious interruption in our food supply, particularly for the Hawaiian archipelago, we're in really big trouble. If the ports go down in California, if the farmers are having droughts and floods, if the pandemic continues, if we have locusts in Africa, we're at this, it's not just peak oil. The peak moment that we're at is peak overpopulation, peak overfishing, peak oil, peak depletion of soil, peak depletion of seed stocks. Let's go back to that seed metaphor, where it's become illegal in parts of the world to actually save your seeds. You're obligated to buy your seeds from a corporation. So even going back to the Neolithic revolution in Iraq, where the original farmers were growing wheat, one of the first things that the Americans did in that breadbasket of the world was they banned farmers from saving their own seed. So we have to look at the seed reality in terms of very decentralized local seed banks. We have to have people that know how to grow food, get it on their plates and get it in their families' bellies and go all the way to the seed collection. And we really need people to transfer quickly into perennial crops. And perennial crops are a little more work theoretically up front, but they yield more and more food over time. So agroforestry not only sequesters carbon, buffers against climate chaos, it infiltrates water down into the soil and creates this soil sponge. And if you think of the current of a meandering water through an ecosystem, and when that overflows, that fertility feeds the bank. Right? Let's look at that metaphor of what it is to slow that water and infiltrate that water into the ground, rather than this rapid current that's eroding those banks and taking all that nutrition away. So we have to look at that metaphor of agroforestry creating the sponge, of building the abundance, of having the multi-layer, mimicking the natural forest ecosystem to feed us, to clothe us, to provide our medicines, and to have the people who have those skills embedded in our communities that know how to use that agroforestry ecosystem and to accelerate that succession over time. And that's what this project is about. Ohana Gardens is about feeding your family, what it means to feed your family, how to not be 90% dependent on imported food to our island community, and to be able to take it all the way from seed to seed and sharing. I think another part that I'll just end on right here, because I'm sure my time is almost up, is that one of the unique things about living on Maui is that we still have an intact Hawaiian indigenous agriculture lineage. And we're able to lean on that deeper wisdom, and we're able to talk to those uncles and aunties, and we're able to actually eat the local foods that are from here and came on the canoes when the Hawaiians came. And we are looking very much to ask that community to share their mana'o, to share their wisdom with us. And we want to build a local food economy that is nutritious, delicious, abundant, and that there's enough to share.
Perfect timing. Say that thought that may we have abundance, may we have beautiful, clean food for all in our interrelatedness for our whole human family. May we have food sovereignty and nourishment. That is such a beautiful blessing to end on.